I still remember the sound of the door closing that day. Not a dramatic slam like in movies, just a quiet, final click that somehow hurt more than shouting ever could. That was the moment I realized my marriage was truly over. My husband had divorced me, and worse than that, he had taken custody of our child. At that time, I felt like my entire world had collapsed into a single breathless second. Our marriage had not always been broken. In the beginning, he was charming, attentive, and deeply convincing. Everyone said I was lucky. Slowly, almost invisibly, things changed. He became controlling in small ways at first, deciding what I should wear, who I should talk to, when I should come home. I told myself it was care, not control. I wanted to believe that so badly that I ignored every red flag waving right in front of me. When our child was born, I thought things would improve. I believed parenthood would soften him, make him more patient, more loving. Instead, it gave him something else, leverage. He started keeping records of my mistakes, every late meal, every exhausted moment, every time I cried from overwhelm. I was a new mother, struggling, but he treated my humanity like a weakness he could later weaponize. The divorce came suddenly, at least for me. One morning, he calmly told me he wanted out. There was no shouting, no argument. He had already prepared everything. Papers were filed, a lawyer hired, and a story carefully crafted. I didn't understand then that he had been planning this for months, maybe even years. What shocked me the most was how quickly things moved. Within weeks, I found myself sitting in a courtroom, feeling small and invisible, while my husband spoke confidently about stability, routine, and responsibility. He painted himself as the perfect parent and me as emotionally unstable, unreliable, and unfit. Hearing my life reduced to cold accusations felt unreal, like listening to someone else's story. I had no strong legal support at that time. I trusted that the truth would speak for itself. I believed love and honesty would matter. I was wrong. The court granted him temporary custody, citing his stable environment and my emotional distress. Emotional distress, caused by losing my marriage and my child, was now being used against me. The day he took custody, I went home to an empty house. Toys were gone, clothes were gone, the silence was unbearable. I remember sitting on the floor, holding one small sock that had been left behind, and feeling like I couldn't breathe. People tell you to be strong, but they don't tell you how strength feels exactly like breaking at first. For weeks, I lived in survival mode. I woke up, went to work, came home, and stared at the walls. Friends tried to comfort me, but most didn't understand. Some even believed his version of the story. He was calm, polite, convincing. I was quiet, exhausted, and visibly broken. Society tends to believe the person who looks more composed. But somewhere in that darkness, something inside me refused to die. One night, after another sleepless evening, I realized that if I stayed silent, his story would become the truth forever. I didn't want revenge. I wanted my child. I wanted justice. And I wanted my voice back. I started documenting everything. Old messages, emails, missed visitations, subtle threats disguised as concern. I found medical records showing I had sought help for anxiety, proof that I was responsible, not unstable. I spoke to teachers, neighbors, and even his own relatives who had seen his temper behind closed doors. This time, I didn't go to just any lawyer. I searched, asked questions, and found someone who listened without judgment. For the first time since the divorce, I felt seen. My lawyer explained something important. Custody cases are not about who speaks louder, but who proves consistency, care, and truth. The next court hearing was different. I walked in nervous, but prepared. My husband looked confident, even smug. He believed he had already won. When my lawyer began presenting evidence, I watched his expression slowly change. Messages he thought were harmless were read aloud. Witness statements were introduced. Patterns were revealed. Then came the moment that changed everything. A professional evaluation showed how my husband had deliberately isolated me and manipulated situations to appear superior. The court-appointed specialist noted signs of emotional control and parental alienation. Words I had never known suddenly explained my entire experience. The judge listened carefully. For the first time, I felt like someone in power actually cared about the full picture, not just appearances. The decision wasn't immediate, but the shift was undeniable. Temporary custody was adjusted. I was granted extended visitation and later shared custody. When I finally saw my child again for longer than a few hours, I cried silently, afraid my tears would worry them. They hugged me tightly and whispered, "I missed you." In that moment, Every sleepless night, every tear, every ounce of fear was worth it. But the story didn't end there. Over time, the truth continued to surface. My husband's carefully built image began to crack. Missed school meetings. Angry outbursts reported by caregivers. The same control he once hid now became visible to others. Eventually, full custody was reconsidered. This time, he wasn't prepared. He had relied on fear and intimidation, not growth or responsibility. The court ruled in favor of stability and emotional safety. My child came home, for good. People often ask me if I felt happy when he lost custody. The truth is complicated. I didn't feel victorious. I felt relieved. I felt calm for the first time in years. I felt free. Watching my child sleep safely in their own bed mattered more than any sense of revenge ever could. What shocked everyone wasn't that I fought back. It was how quietly, steadily, and truthfully I did it. I didn't scream. I didn't destroy him publicly. I simply refused to let lies define my life. This experience changed me forever. I learned that silence is not strength when it allows injustice to grow. I learned that asking for help is not weakness. And most importantly, I learned that being underestimated can be the greatest advantage of all. If you're watching this and living through something similar, know this: your pain is real, and your story matters. The person who controls the narrative often wins, until the truth is finally heard. It may take time. It may take everything you have. But the truth has a way of standing tall when given the chance. Today, my life is quieter, simpler, and infinitely more honest. I still carry scars, but they no longer define me. I am not the woman who was left behind in that empty house. I am the woman who stood up, gathered the broken pieces, and rewrote her ending. And that is what he never expected.